Dear Diary, it's been a brilliant start to the Premier League season here at Cardiff, with those 2-1 wins away at Arsenal and at home to Aston Villa, two teams playing European football this season. Off the back of that, our backups picked up a solid 2-0 win away at Shrewsbury in the Carabao Moose Cup, which means most of our first teamers are fit to take on bottom place Spurs. A win here would give us a lot more points than expected for August. After that is out the way, it's deadline day, and we still have £13 million to spend, and a few players we ideally would move on for some more coin as well. We could still use a ball winning midfielder, but haven't found one yet, but maybe more money could help with that. Anyway, expect us to do something. Until next time. Hello everyone and welcome to episode 57 of FMOE here on Shaun Does FM with Cardiff City. I hope you are doing well, and coming up today we look to continue a perfect start to the Premier League season as we end the month of August with a home game against currently bottom place Tottenham Hotspur, things you love to see, and off the back of that we will look to make some moves on transfer deadline day, still with a budget of £13 million and a few players actually worth a bit of money who we are looking to move on. So if you are looking forward to today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and have been enjoying the series here on the channel, also remember to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated. But we picked things up off the back of playing our first two games in the Premier League at the end of last week. If you missed that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. As you can tell there, through that Premier League table, we got off to a very good start, 2-1 wins away at Arsenal, coming from behind late in that one, and then at home to Aston Villa. So a very good start for a team newly promoted from the Championship. And then off the back of that, we have played one game in the Carabao Cup, the second round. We took on Shrewsbury away from home with pretty much a fully back up team, and picked up a 2-0 win there thanks to goals through Ziani and our young American centre-back and Charlie Higgins. So far, it's been a very good start to the season, especially when you do consider that pre-season form that we did bring into the season. So hopefully we can continue that as we take on a Tottenham Hotspur team who have struggled to start off the season in the Premier League, suffering defeats against Manchester City and Brighton. So to be fair, they have taken on two decent teams, but we've started off quite well as well, and hopefully we can pick up a good result, albeit it is a Tottenham team who do still have quite a few of their key players from real life at the moment, even though they are now quite old in the year of 2027 in the likes of Harry Kane and Heung-min Son. But as I said, on our form to start this season, and with this one being at home, we might be in with a sneaky chance of potentially picking up a point, and we come into this one with no injury concerns, which is good, but we do have a few players a bit tied off the back of our recent schedule, as well as that Shrewsbury game, so it does mean we are going to rotate the team just a little bit to make sure that no one does get too injury prone before we do enter deadline day, and it changes our plans a little bit from what we are looking to do, in particular try and get a first choice ball winning midfielder a bit better than Andy Rinamo. So we'll come back shortly with team sheets for the lone game from today's episode before we do get stuck into deadline day, and hopefully can pick up some more points in the month of August as we take on Tottenham from Cardiff City Stadium. And here are the team sheets for today's Premier League clash. Here we are up first. We've just made one change. Connor Coventry comes in for Rinamota, a little bit tired off the back of recent efforts, and also Molinos comes in for Farias on the bench as our cam. There are Tottenham, as I said, that big two still there, as well as the likes of new additions like Danny Olmo, but they have struggled to start the season. Hopefully we can make the most of that and pick up some more points to stay up the top of that Premier League table. And it's taken 10 minutes for us to get the first highlight in this one. It's a dangerous area for a free kick to Tottenham Hotspur. Christian Romero gets his head on the end of that at the far post. Mexado can't quite reach it, and we go 1-0 down early. Very much like what happened against their rivals in Arsenal, but this time at our home stadium. To be fair, good header from Ramiro. Under some pressure, still think Mixado could have saved that one, but we concede early and go 1-0 down. And about 10 minutes off the back of that opening goal, it's now a corner for Tottenham Hotspur, which McGuinness does try and clear. Erhog High will, but they still keep possession here, and Heung-min Son starts to cut inside, will unleash a shot. I think the Mixado was rooted to the spot, but thankfully just goes off target. Still 1-0 down. We have made an early tactical change though, just like we did late against Arsenal. Ruben Colwill has gone on to an attacking role, so hopefully that might help us get on the front foot nice and early in this one and try and grab that equaliser. And it is half time in this Premier League clash, and we go into the sheds 1-0 down. To be fair, it is probably a fair scoreline because we haven't shown too much in attack in this one. No highlights in our favour, 2 in favour of Tottenham Hotspur, and not many players out there on good ratings either. So we're going to give the boys a bit of a rev up here at half time to try and get something out of this game, and we are going to make a few changes as well. 2 players already below a 6.5 rating, and those players are Mark McGuinness as well as Enes Sally. So for Sally, Martin Jackalis will come on for him. He did quite good off the bench against Arsenal at the end of last week, and also Curtis Nelson will come on for Mark McGuinness. We'll give the boys a bit of a stern word here at halftime and hopefully can grab a goal back and maybe get a draw out of this one in the second half. We get it back underway, 1-0 down. And just over 10 minutes into the second half, the first highlight here is again in favour of Tottenham Hotspur. They have a throw in here inside the final third, but Bloshi there gets the ball back, and it might give us a chance here to do something on the counter-attack. Coventry there takes his time on the ball so far, going quite averagely on a 6.4. That might just be reinforcing the fact we do need a better ball-winning midfielder for the rest of this season. To try and get one of those on deadline day is going to be the big aim, but Tottenham now get a chance to try and play out from the back through Van den Ven. Shabalala now is on the ball, plays that one forward to Elise. Good ball, picks him out nicely and makes his way down this right-hand side, just inside the box. We'll find Harry Kane, and he finds the bottom right corner. That looked like a really soft header to concede. It was from a fair way out, but unfortunately Mixado couldn't quite reach it. Not too sure if the angle he tried to save that is was the best one with that dive, but fair play. It's a good header from past the penalty spot there from Harry Kane right into that bottom right corner. And we are going to make some changes off the back of that as we do go 2-0 down. A few players struggling out there, so it is time to make some substitutions. Broom, Colwill and Coventry all struggling. Ciziani, Molinos and Renamotta can all come on for them. So that will be all of our subs used with just over a half hour left. And we are now 2-0 down and might be suffering our first loss of this Premier League season. And in fact, we have a highlight immediately from the restart off the back of that second goal to Tottenham Hotspur. So hopefully we can grab an instant reply off the back of those substitutes that we did make. And it might give us a chance potentially at grabbing an equaliser. If we can do that, Ruben Colwill here plays that one to Ben Hardy on that right-hand side. Now Dominguez does lose out on possession there to Heung-min Son. And João Gomez, these days of Wolves, plays that one forward to Adogi. We try and get that ball back off him, but they still hold it here, do Spurs. Good chance for Elise, but thankfully blast that one over the bar. And we are still 2-0 down. And we've just entered the last 10 minutes of this game. It is a free kick here to Tottenham Hotspur. Thankfully, our Bloshi heads that one away. He has picked up an orange injury, so that's something we need to keep an eye out on off the back of this game. We do have a bit of a break off the back of this one, so hopefully he will be okay for the next one that we do play. But we get on the counter-attack here. Jackalis inside the box will find Ziani. He will grab his third goal of the season already. He is looking quite dangerous coming off the bench in place of Atide, so he's going to keep his spot on the bench in this current form. Might even push Marco Blun for that starting spot, and that means that with just under 10 minutes left, good header there, we are right back in this game, now only down by a goal. And we are inside the last few minutes of this one. We are going to up the mentality. We've already changed some player roles for these last few minutes, and we might also now go a bit more expressive as well and just see if that does help out for the latter stages of this one. But we are running out of time. These might be our first drop points of the Premier League season. We'll also go up to a high defensive line as well, and we'll keep things on a counter-attacking and high press type of style, but it does look like we are running out of time. To be fair, this has probably been our worst performance stat-wise of the season so far, and unfortunately we do suffer a defeat too in the month of August, albeit, as I said, kind of a free hit off the back of what we did do at the end of last week with those wins against both Arsenal and Aston Villa, but we do suffer our first defeat of the season in the Premier League. Unfortunately, it does come at home, and we do suffer a 2-1 defeat there against Tottenham Hotspur, who probably now will jump off of bottom of the table. Ziani, our best rater, and he came off the bench, which probably says our stars in that one did not do a good job. We'll tell them unlucky, it wasn't meant to be, but certainly a game that we could have played better in. We'll get through this post-match interview and see what that does do to the Premier League table off the back of that one. I do think, though, it was a bit of an early kickoff. In fact, it wasn't. A few games have been played, and it does look like we might actually stay up there close to the top of the Premier League despite that result, because a few of the other teams up there have also dropped points, so it doesn't end up being too bad of a result. As I said, kind of a free hit game off the back of what we did at the end of last week, but we do suffer our first defeat this season, 2-1 to Tottenham Hotspur, and we'll come back shortly and start to get stuck into deadline day looking for a first choice ball winning midfielder. So unfortunately we do suffer our first defeat of the Premier League season, albeit against a team like Tottenham, even off the back of a rough start, I suppose not too unexpected, with the likes of Romero, Kane and Son on their books. And there are the other results from that third match day as well as the day after, and that does mean we are now 4th on the table in a pretty good position for a team newly promoted, and hopefully in the month of September with the fixtures that we do have coming up against the likes of Brentford, Stoke and Crystal Palace, that does look like an easier month than August was. We can continue to stay up there towards the top end of the table, or at least solidify ourselves as a team who hopefully will not get involved in a relegation battle. And as you can see, we've also had the third round drawn for the EFL Cup, and we take on the team who did beat us in the playoff a few seasons ago in Blackburn, so that should be an interesting tie against the team newly relegated who switched places with us from the Premier League last season. But we are about to get stuck in to deadline day. There you can see we are going to take part. The big news is that we've already put in a bid for a player for £9.5 million, and that is the guy who I am hoping will be our long-term first choice ball winning midfielder here at Cardiff City. We've found about the right profile finally for a player in that role, and that is Blaine Quezada. He has been picked for the Mexico team for this international break, which is taking place off the back of that most recent Premier League game. He can play centre-back and full-back as well as regular midfield, but looking at someone who does play as a ball-winning midfielder, apart from aggression, he has some quite nice attributes, and physically some really good attributes, including natural fitness. So do like the look of him. He is rated as a wonder kid by the game, so hopefully that potential is up towards the top end of those 5 stars. He had a release clause of 9.4 million, so we did trigger that, and he is the player that we are going after for that ball winning midfield role. The contract has already been put in, so hopefully that one is going to be a big deal that does go through on transfer deadline day, and he is a bit of an upgrade on Renamotta as well, and quite a bit younger as well. It might mean that someone like Connor Coventry does get dropped out of the team that little bit more, but he wasn't that impressive in that previous game against Spurs, so it might be for the best and might just give us a bit more for this team going forward for the rest of the season in the Premier League. So it does mean that off the back of that deal, we will still have around about £3.5 million if we can't get rid of some of our players who are transfer listed. If we have a look at them, the listed players that we do have from the first team, there are some more in our under-21s, but Serhal Galasai for 6.5 million, Alex Patterson for 1.2 million, Callum Robinson for 2.5 million, and also Xavier Simons for £200,000, albeit he has already been loaned out to Portsmouth with an optional future fee for that amount. So it's not a player that we're going to be shopping out too much on deadline day, as hopefully Portsmouth will make the most of that clause in that loan deal. But those other 3 players are players that we could get some money for, and in the case of Galasai and Robinson in particular, that could also free up quite a bit on the wage budget as well. Those 2 players taking up £70,000 in between them, and I think with the rest of the money, if we do have any, we might look to sign some youngsters who we can get to the club to train up in the future as homegrown nation and club players if we do eventually make European football with this Cardiff City squad. But as mentioned before, the main player that we are going after here on deadline day, the bid has already been put in for him, and that is Blaine Quezada from Deportivo Guadalajara. So we'll see what does happen over the course of deadline day, and hopefully that one gets the seal of approval, and we'll go from there to see what else we can do in the last few hours of this transfer window. And we've gone forward a few hours here on deadline day, and as you can see, we do have the Premier League awards for the month of August, so we'll do a quick update on these. Unfortunately, none of our players were nominated for Player of the Month for August, which I suppose is fair enough, because when we did play best, it was actually when we had some impact coming off of the bench. But in terms of Young Player of the Month, we had a clean sweep in this one. Ziani picks it up with 2 goals in 2 appearances. Not far behind him, though, were both El Bloshy and Ben Hardy, so that is encouraging. Our youth players here at Cardiff doing a good job. And also, Manager of the Month, even ratings in terms of win percentage, but for some reason, Inzaghi and Zidane got more points than we did at Cardiff, which does seem a little bit strange considering they are from Chelsea and Newcastle, but we do finish third in our first month in the Premier League for Manager of the Month. Hopefully we can pick one of those up throughout the course of the rest of the season. And we've gone forward, so there are now 11 hours remaining here on deadline day for this first Premier League transfer window of ours. And I did get itchy feet while we were waiting for that deal for Blaine to go through. So with that leftover money that we should have off the back of that deal getting done, we have spent some spare bits on some young players with quite high potential. And the first of those deals has gone through. And the first player coming to join us here on deadline day is Luis Hurtado from Millonarios in Colombia. As you can see, he is a 20-year-old, so a little bit older than what we would ideally be trying to sign here, but does have 2.5-star current ability and might have 5-star potential with 4 of those stars gold. He is a left winger. Thought that might be a position we could use some youth in with someone like Merlin Jacques at 30 years old, and also Robinson being our other player in that area. He is on the transfer list, so I thought that could be an area where we could use some improvement, and Luis Hurtado will be our first signing here on deadline day. We'll probably play mostly for the under-21s this season, but he will join us with that good potential for a fee of £525,000 a week. Now, I say he'll be in the under-21s. We actually are going to loan him back to Millonarios for the rest of this season, but could be a useful squad player for us here next year at Cardiff City. And right off the back of us making that deal for Hurtado official, there you can see actually his current ability a little bit lower than we were hoping for in 2 stars, but hopefully by the time he does come back from that loan back out to Millonarios, he will be back up to a decent current ability rating. But 2 more deals have gone through for youngsters that we also put bids in for. First up, Paul McIntosh for a fee of £500,000 from Charlton Athletic. He will also get loaned out back there for the rest of this season, but 18 years old, definitely more of the age that we were looking to do deals for here on transfer deadline day. 1.5-star current ability, 4-star potential, but less than £1 million, already homegrown in nation. That does look like a fairly good deal, and hopefully he turns out to be another good option for us in the future in that left wing role. So we'll make that deal official. He will be at Charlton Athletic for the rest of this season, but might be someone who can come back here at Cardiff in future years. And also a young striker who we are going to sign on deadline day as well. And this is 19-year-old Renato Tomic, again for £400,000, doing some deals here for under that £500,000 mark. Unfortunately, there is a percentage of profit from next sale clause in that one, but still think this is quite a good deal for a player with quite a bit of potential. The Croatian striker, currently at Sibanek, 3-star current ability, 4.5-star potential based on attributes. Actually a little bit better than someone like Keon Atete, so could actually get some football in the first team, but the way Ziani's going, might only be a third choice for us, probably a player who will actually end up in our under-21s for the rest of this season. But that is our third signing here on deadline day. Renato Tomic, a striker, joining us from Sibanek, a 19-year-old Croatian. In terms of us trying to get rid of some players, though, unfortunately, the news is not so good. No interest at all that's actually been acted upon by any clubs for either Galasai Pedersen or Robinson as yet, so it does look like we might struggle to get those players out the door. As you can see, their transfer value asking price has gone down, but still no interest. So not too sure if we can get rid of those players, but still enough in our budget for that deal for Blayan to go through to strengthen that ball winning midfield role, and that might be all we end up doing here on deadline day, but it might be quite a few ins. Now, unfortunately, not as many outs as we were hoping for, with not enough interest in these older players that we are trying to get rid of. And with 10 hours left on transfer deadline day, the deal we actually put through the day prior has finally been accepted, with his work permit being accepted. Of course, that is expected with him being in the Mexican national squad. Brian Quezada is going to join us, the wonder kid, who is currently at Deportivo Guadalajara for £9.5 million, £29,000 a week wage, and he will join us to hopefully be our long-term first choice ball winning midfielder there, alongside our Bloshy in the midfield, and that could end up being a good young midfield which will hopefully keep us up in the Premier League. But there is our big signing for deadline day that will leave only $2 million remaining in our transfer budget, but he does look like a pretty good get. Does Blayan Quezada quite well suited for that ball winning midfield role, as we did show you guys earlier. Is rated as a wonder kid and is about to go away with the Mexican national team as well. So it does look like a pretty good talent. That is our big signing for deadline day, and might be all we do unless we can get some more players out the door who are currently transfer listed. And indeed, that was it for transfer deadline day. No sales, unfortunately. We did loan out a few players, but nothing too serious or important for you guys. Mostly players who were fringe players at the very best here, lingering in our under 21s. But overall, we did spend $34.5 million in this transfer window. Got $8.5 million in with the sales of both Ales Mateju and Willard Ditta. So it does mean our net spend was around about the £26 million mark. And considering we did have a transfer budget of £38 million, not bad work at all. Spending quite low fees on most players. Our biggest one was on deadline day for Quezada. But apart from that, I do think, even though we did spend some quite small fees in comparison to most of the Premier League, we did make some quite good deals. If we go over and have a look at the transfer history, there is everything that we did do once the new season did tick over here for this Premier League season, once we did get the promotion. If we go back a little bit further, you will see some of the other deals that we did do that did go through a bit earlier. Those deals for the likes of El Bloshy, among others, that we did sort out a bit earlier than those other ones. So it was a quite active transfer window for us. But overall, I think in terms of our squad now at Cardiff City, it does look a bit better than it was heading into deadline day, especially once we put someone like Quezada in that team. For Rinamota, there is where he does look like now that he is here at Cardiff City. 4-star potential gold, 5 white. I do think he is quite a promising player, albeit we might give him a bit of time to get used to that ball winning midfield role, seeing as it does look like for the national team he might be playing more as a centre-back, seeing as it is his more natural position. But certainly a player I think can do a good job for us in that role, and hopefully is the missing piece to improve the squad here for this Premier League season at Cardiff City. And also, of course, at some stage we'll probably chuck in Facundo Farias for Ruben Cole as well, once he gets back from that injury which did hinder him in the early stages of this pre-season. But I think that will do it for today's episode, getting a few players through the door on deadline day, most notably Blayan Quezada, and that first loss of the Premier League season 2-1 against Tottenham. Then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and have been enjoying the series here on the channel, also remember to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. When we come back for tomorrow's episode, we might actually play a few games off camera. I know I said we'd take this season nice and slow, but in terms of months in the Premier League, September does look quite kind to us, especially taking on a team who we did beat quite regularly in the Championship in Stoke City. So I think we'll skip over those games against Brentford, Stoke and Blackburn, and might come back for an interesting double header in late September and early October, where we take on Crystal Palace and Newcastle. Of course, these days, quite a good team with Zinedine Zidane in charge, and from there in those further months, there are some bigger teams who we can take on in the likes of Chelsea, Man City, Liverpool and Man United before we do get stuck in to the next transfer window, but hopefully we can continue that form that we did build up in the first month of the season, and that should be enough for us to make sure that we do stay up in the Premier League. But we'll come back tomorrow and take on Palace and Newcastle. So until then, thank you very much for watching, keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.